Good evening and welcome to the Ogden City Council special meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 2013. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we'd also like to recognize former council member Doreen Jeskies with us here tonight, so welcome. First, we'll turn it over to Vice Chair Garner for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would everyone please rise and then repeat after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. First up is a recognition for Constitution Week. Councilmember Van Hoosier.
It is my honor to read a joint proclamation of Ogden City Council and the Mayor declaring September the 17th through the 23rd of 2013 as Constitution Week in Ogden City. Whereas on September the 17th, 1787, the Constitution of the United States of America was adopted and signed at the conclusion of the Constitution Convention in Philadelphia. The convention was originally held to revise the Articles of Confederation, but ultimately provided a setting for restructuring the federal government and establishing fundamental liberties for generations to come. And whereas the Constitutional Convention was one of the most significant events in American history. This event promoted the establishment of ideals that have shaped our nation and allowed it to prosper for more than a century. The Constitution itself establishes unequivocal rights and freedoms and provides a government structure that solicits both citizen participation and national progress. And whereas the Constitution serves as the oldest document still in active use that outlines the self-government of a people. This landmark idea that men and women have the inalienable right as individuals to be free and live their lives under their own governance was the impetus for the American Revolution. It is essential that the Constitution is protected and upheld to ensure that future generations can possess the same freedoms that we now enjoy. And whereas in 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution, or the DAR, petitioned Congress to dedicate an annual week to observe and honor the Constitution. A resolution establishing Constitution Week was adopted by Congress and signed into public law by President Dwight D. Eisenhower on August the 2nd, 1956. And Constitution Week, and whereas Constitution Week is a celebration of the U.S. Constitution and memorialized an unsurpassed impact that this historic document continues to have on our nation. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell do hereby proclaim September the 17th through the 23rd, 2013 as Constitution Week in the city of Ogden. We encourage residents to reflect on our heritage of freedom and to join together in celebrating the Constitution and the many freedoms it provides. I move that we adopt this joint proclamation.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Van Hoosier and a second from Councilmember Heyer to adopt this joint proclamation. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks? Aye. Vice Chair Garner?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
Aye, that passes. We'd like to ask Ms. Jeske if she'd come up and accept this for us.
Picture. You want to
Want to do a picture?
One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Doreen, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I've always been pretty patriotic, and I think, and you know, when it mentions recognizing and doing things in the community, I thought what we all need to do is show our support by flying our flag the whole week. So I would encourage all of us to do that, and thank you again. It's great working. Amy Sue has been terrific, and to work with. And it's neat to see all of you again. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is approval of minutes. The work session of May 30th, 2013. Councilmember Heyer.
As Chair Blair, I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate and would make a motion that we approve the minutes of the work session of May 30th.
We have a motion from Councilmember Heyer and a second from Councilmember Stevens to adopt the minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Next up is a public hearing on the Childs Avenue Street vacation. Montgomery?
Mr. Chair and members of the council, you are considering tonight a recommendation you received from the Planning Commission regarding a petition that was filed to vacate a portion of Childs Avenue. The petition that the Planning Commission considered, get this thing in focus. This was acting up the Planning Commission too last time, so there we go. Okay. So the petition requested that this lower 413 feet of Childs Avenue be vacated. So the Planning Commission had a hearing regarding this request. And just to give you a little background, the subdivision that created Childs Avenue, also created Grant and Lincoln in this area, was recorded in 1890. How property is subdivided is important because it then tells us what we can do with the pieces that are dedicated. The streets were dedicated as public thoroughfares and were dedicated to Ogden City. The alleys were dedicated to the abutting property owners. So what that means is, as we consider a petition, because the way this was set up, the city can act on a request to vacate a public street. The way this is dedicated also means that if a vacation takes place, half of the street property goes to the property owner on the east side, half the property goes to the street owner on the west side. The alleys, though, cannot be vacated by the city. They are abutters alleys, require the adjoining property owners of that section of alley to agree to abutting. So the city cannot act on any vacation of the abutters alley, but they can act on the street vacation request. In considering a street vacation, the ordinance basically says that there are two things that need to be found. One, that there's a good cause that exists for the vacation, and then two, that neither public interest nor any person will be materially injured by street vacation. So as the Planning Commission considered this request, they kept in mind those two requirements. Now, just to give you, again, an idea of what we're talking about, this is Childs Avenue as it presently appears. You may recall that several years ago, the buildings that were along Childs Avenue were removed, and the only buildings left are at the very end of Childs along 20th Street, where Chick Armature is located, and also, Carpenter Heating, located over here. Those are the only two buildings that are left along Childs Avenue. This proposed vacation basically will go to where this black line is. So from this black line south would be the vacation. From here to the north, this would still remain as a dedicated public street as Childs Avenue under this request.
Can I ask a question right there?
Yes.
Is there any uses along Child that still need some access? I drove there the other day and I saw curb cuts from the homes that were there, but I saw no use, nothing going on. Is there anything going on down on that?
Well, there's two points to your question. As far as, is there any development there? No, there's not. As far as right of access, the Ogden City property located here, the Barrett property located here, again, another piece of city property here, and then as the plat shows, a piece that's owned by the bank. All these properties have access off of Childs Avenue. So one of the considerations is that they still can have access even though they don't have a building there.
I see.
So preserving the access for these properties is still an important consideration, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so there's two parts to your question. Is there any building there? No. Is there right of access? Yes.
Okay.
In the first part of the discussion with the Planning Commission was about the good cause scenario, which is one of the things you need to find. In this, the discussion was really on a couple things. First of all, one is the implementation of the River Master Plan. That what was presented was that this is needed to help in the project development. The concept that was shown, and this is an older site plan, you'll see in a later discussion, the site plan's revised somewhat, but these two criteria are still the same. In order to try to get the development that's being proposed on the site, these buildings encroach into the Childs right-of-way in order to get the parking, which is at the very minimum parking. So it's not like they've got excess parking to say, well, delete some and shift things over. These are all the bare minimums. This building encroaches 23 feet into the right-of-way, and this encroaches 6 feet into the right-of-way. So in order to implement that part of the plan to develop this block, the encroachment, the vacation is part of that request, that being part of what that good cause is. The other part of that good cause is that in their plan, I should leave this up here, they're proposing separations of pedestrian traffic from vehicle traffic along what was Childs Avenue. They're proposing that there be a green corridor that goes from Park Boulevard down to their entrance, mid-block to 20th Street, and that be a pedestrian access easement that's open to the public. So in the master plan, one of the things that was talked about in that plan was to try to create edges and corridors, and the buildings, of course, create the edges. These green corridors that are now being proposed are shifting basically this green corridor that was at the end to the middle part and taking this landscaping over in this area to enhance the landscaping in the public area. So that became part, again, of the good cause of trying to implement the plan in their request. The second part of the consideration that the Planning Commission made was that the public interest and no individual is materially injured by the request. couple of things that were pointed out was that the situation on Childs, since all the buildings had been removed to the northern end, was that we do have a failing infrastructure situation. The sewer line was capped because the infiltration that was coming to the sewer line created a capacity problem at 20th Street. There was so much water infiltration coming in that 20th Street was at capacity. Once they capped the sewer line that was in Childs Avenue, the capacity of 20th Street is now, there's a lot of area there for extra development to take place because of all the infiltration was coming in off of the Childs sewer line. All the water, groundwater was seeping in because the line was falling apart. It was an old brick line, and it had outlived its purpose. And so this proposed development will install a new sewer line that will run along Childs and the vacated portion of Childs that can now, again, service the property in a better way. The other provision is that a new east-west street would be created to provide circulation from Childs to Washington Boulevard to the east. Let me just grab that. That new street design that would take Park Boulevard and extend it from Grant Avenue and connect into Childs so that all the properties that are north of this vacation, which has happened here, will still have public access. So they'll be able to access Childs Avenue here, which will still be public, and then use a public street here to get to Grant Avenue. This also does another item. It creates a turnaround now where you had a street that was over 1,000 feet long and dead end without a turnaround. That has now been cut in distance to 600 feet. So from here to the end of Childs on the north end is now 600 feet. But now there's a better emergency access turnaround being provided by this. So that's another public benefit that's taking place by this. The creation of an east-west street, which helps divide the block in smaller units, and also now a better turnaround so the dead end is reduced so it's not as much of a hazard. The other item is that then both vehicle and pedestrian access is being maintained so that all the property owners to the north from this point still all have public access on a dedicated street that leads to dedicated streets. So based on these findings, the commission determined that both situations that need to be found in a street vacation are being addressed. The good cause portion and that no property or public purpose are being materially impacted because access is still being provided, better utilities are now being provided to connect to, and this situation also helps in block development and shortening the lengths of the blocks. So those good cause reasons are also being maintained, and that all the property owners along Childs Avenue in this part that are not part of any development at this time still have public access to a street, still have an ability to connect into utilities that will be installed in this area for whatever future development may take place. The Plan Commission then, after looking at these things, recommended on a 5-0 vote to vacate the southern portion of the petitioned Childs Avenue. Their condition, though, was subject to Park Boulevard being installed prior to this being vacated. You'll find in your packet today a second ordinance for consideration. That is looking at the concept that Park Boulevard needs to be dedicated as a public street. Once that is dedicated as a public street, then the eastern half of Childs Avenue in this area could be vacated, allowing then this project to move forward in its time frame to get all the property in place as one ownership. And then this part, the west part of Childs, be vacated once Park Boulevard is then improved. This does two things. One, it makes sure that before we give up any property here, that this is dedicated as a public street for public access. 2, during construction, there is still a route here until the street is put in, that then, once this is put in, the new pavement exists, so there's circulation throughout, and then this lower part can be vacated. The other condition in both ordinances are that there be a public access easement and utility easement that go through the vacated portion of Childs Avenue. That is because there needs to be a sewer line, a new sewer line run down Childs Avenue. There needs to be the public access easement that has been talked about through here, and the stormwater pipe needs to go through here, which will be a public facility. And so those easements need to be retained for those things.
So will those utilities run the full length of Childs Avenue, or do they stop at Park?
Presently, they would stop at Park. If any future development takes place, then they could extend those to tie into that. But these will be designed so they can take in whatever development may take place.
And Mr. Montgomery, those new utilities, the sewer, the stormwater, water, will all be put in by the developer?
Correct.
Mr. Montgomery, the Planning Commission was presented item B to look at, weren't they?
No, they were not.
Essentially, it was a...
At their discussion, it was only if this is vacated, this needs to be in place first. The other options were not talked about at that point.
Okay.
So they only looked at the idea of it, all or nothing.
Okay.
Any
Any
other
other
questions of me?
questions?
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, so we will now accept public input. Amy Sue will do that. Amy Sue can get that passed out for you.
My name is Scott Brown, and I represent Emma Jean Barrett. You can reach me at 742 West Haven. That's where my office is. And I'm just going to need a few more minutes, but I'll try to make it very quickly. Back in 2010, there was a contract that was signed, or 2009, a contract that was signed with Emma Jean Barrett, the city, and I'll put this on here. I've given you a copy of the contract, and one of the exhibits is a lengthy contract. Exhibit F actually shows the work that Greg did for her to show her the placement of properties. What I'm trying to show you is that if you look at your master plan, this portion of the property right here, this section right in here, is shown as a park. Childs Avenue doesn't come through. Okay, it's closed off, and there's a walkway, 66-foot walkway that goes all the way down through it. This plan was given to the other buildings on the right side or to the east were part of Mr. Gotti's development. That was what was proposed, and you can see there's no park, and you can also see these two lines represents Childs Avenue. My point is this, just a few months ago, or in fact, I should say 6 months ago, Emma Jean had a client that was going to go in there, but she couldn't put the client in because of the restrictions. The park is being taken away, and there was no way other than accessing across the alleyway and other properties to get to that property, and she didn't want to do that. She wants to keep her other development as it is, and she wants the other guys to have their access off of Childs Avenue. So under the statutes, we have to treat each lot as a separate entity, almost like an LLC, okay? So each piece of property has, whether it's in your name or somebody else's name, has a particular right. And Greg's right, you've got to give them access to the property. Now, the issue is that if you look at what they're presenting you today, they show Childs Avenue going down, but if you look at your master plan, it's a conundrum. It's the direct opposite. You actually show a greenway going all the way to the river, and they'll have no access to these individual lots. So what we're trying to ask you today is to if you do a motion to vacate it, please have a motion to guarantee that she has a minimum for the old city standards of 50 foot of public right-of-way to access those lots back there. It totally devalues the property. There's no other way to get to it unless you go through other property, which she does not want to do. She didn't want to sell the property to Mr. Lesham, and it's been changed. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you, in your consideration, please protect the rights of that property owner down there and make sure they have access to go with the land for perpetuity. And in your master plan, it does not show that. So you've got a park that takes up 40% of her property. And to date, under this contract, she's given you, I have the numbers, yes.
Scott, thank you. Your time's up. Thank you.
That's it. Can I have Emma Jean's 3 minutes?
No,
She can speak.
thank you.
Thank you.
We can after.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay. Mr. Montgomery, do you want to address?
How about if we have Mr. Stratford
Okay.
respond?
Do we need to close the public hearing? No, okay.
So as I understand the concern that's raised by Mr. Brown has to do with this plan, which was adopted after the agreement was prepared that you just received as a handout. And this master plan shows this area being a green space rather than being a road. But really the only way to address that is to say that what you're addressing now has to do with access and realignment of roads in this area, and that anything that happens north of this area would be the subject of a future development application. And as Mr. Montgomery has already pointed out, the installation of Park Boulevard through the half block here from Grant provides a legal access then to go north on the existing road. And that road is not being vacated by you at this time and continues to provide her with more than the 50-foot access that Mr. Brown has requested. But it comes from Park rather than through the existing Childs Avenue for all of the reasons that Mr. Montgomery has explained. But I do want to clarify that discussion will happen in the future, and you'll have all the opportunity in the world you need to discuss the rights of the adjoining property owners and what they need to do, but that what you're being asked to do tonight does not determine or predetermine how that discussion will take place. Any additional questions about that?
So, my concern is, the properties are owned by one owner, yellow ones.
Yes.
So, I just want to make sure that we're not operating under the assumption that all of them will have the same property owner in the future, as far as access go, if we were relying on the other property that's adjoining it.
There's no reliance at this time that this property and this property will be
Okay.
owned by the same person. That's why Childs is still remaining open. When a future development application comes, it will be required to go through a process and have discussions and work issues out. But no, what you're being asked to do tonight makes no predetermination that the owner of these parcels will be the same as the owner of these parcels.
Okay.
And in fact, these parcels are all the ones that were created in 1880 or 1888, whenever it was that original subdivision was approved. These are still the same parcels that are there, and they will continue to be there until somebody takes action to do some kind of lot combination or other subdivision process.
Thank you.
Do we need to close the public
We
hearing?
need to close. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Close the public hearing, sorry.
I'll second. Did
We
not?
have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Heyer and a second from Councilmember Van Hoosier. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Any further discussion or a motion?
If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2013-42, option B.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gochner to adopt proposed ordinance 2013-42, option B, and a second from Councilmember Van Hoosier. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Hyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner.
Aye.
Vice Chair Garner.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Next is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I beg your tolerance. I'll take another 3 minutes. We also wanted to offer that we'd like to see Park Boulevard go through and we're ready to negotiate, and that would also help all the traffic that goes through there. At the Planning Commission meeting, even the developer to the east stated that there's going to be a lot of congestion coming out once you close off that road between the new Park Boulevard and 20th. So we would like to work in some positive manner to get that through because it's across the upper part of Emma Jean's property. So just take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Comments from the mayor?
Sure, just one thing real quick. You'll notice the flag's at half-staff tomorrow in recognition of September 11th and the 12-year anniversary of what happened back east on that day. So if you have any questions, that's why those will be at half-mast, and hope everybody will keep those people in their memories. So, thank you.
And comments from council members?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
We have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Wicks and a second from Vice Chair Garner. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our redevelopment agency meeting will follow this meeting.